We live drums.
Hello, I'm Gary France, and in this video we're going to continue on our exploration of the world of percussion. Today we're going to talk about tambourines. Tambourine appears early in classical music, and it's, of course, as a folkloric instrument, it's very, very old. When we talk about a tambourine, what are we referring to? Well, it's basically a frame drum. It's a drum with a skin on it. You have a skin, you have a wooden shell, and then we have jingles. These jingles go around that shell. And it's designed to create the sound of a drum, like this, with the addition of jingles. It has a Spanish, Turkish sound to it, and we find that in composers like Rimsky-Korsakov and you know, in terrific compositions like Capriccio Espagnol, Scheherazade. We find in the Palavetzian dances by Borodin, it's, you know, Carmen, Bizet's Carmen. We find a lot of use of the tambourine as an instrument that creates a sense of mood, a sense of place and being. Like many of our instruments, if we refer to Kurt Sachs's classifications of instruments, the tambourine, it is a membranophone because it has a membrane, but it's also an idiophone because it has the jingles on it, okay? So it's a combination of these two things. You'll note that as I'm handling the tambourine, I'm handling it in a very ginger manner. I'm very careful on what I'm doing. And this comes to the very core of how we teach handling of percussion instruments, especially the tambourine. Because when a composer writes for the tambourine in a piece of music, you know, 4 or 5 bars before the tambourine comes in, we don't want the percussionist to do this. Now I'm ready to play. You hear all that extraneous sound that you get moving the tambourine around. It's important that we teach our younger players that there are no extraneous noises made when we're picking up and putting down instruments, and the tambourine is the best for that. You'll note, if we can get a close-up on this, is that I've got the tambourine. It's on this trap table here. This is called a trap table. It's a wooden table with a bit of carpet on the top. But you note that I'm holding the tambourine off the edge. It's coming off the edge of that table right there. And that's so that I can reach my hand in and pick up the tambourine without making any noise. We also see that on the back of the tambourine there's a hole. This hole is on the back of the tambourine. Surprisingly enough, the hole is not designed for you to put your finger through while you're holding the tambourine. That's not what it's for. It's just in case your tambourine is fully on the table and we need to pick it up, that you can put your finger in there and be able to lift the tambourine without making any noise. So that's pretty much the makeup of your tambourine. Tambourines come in a wide variety of sizes and shapes. And on the table back here, I've got a big collection of tambourines. Of course, this is about half of my tambourines, but it'll give us an idea of some of the ones that you use. I have tambourines that have small diameter. This is about a 6-inch tambourine, and you'll note that it has single row of jingles, and these jingles are just, I think they're made out of brass. They're brass jingles. And this one I bought in Pune, India. This is an instrument I bought in Pune when I was performing in India. And you know, I like the light jingle. I like the fact that the frame drum, it had a natural head. I like to play the head. You can also play it a bit like a conjura. And this is sort of a jazzy tambourine. Light, makes some interesting sounds, but not really going to cut it in a big orchestra. So that's a single row tambourine, a very small one. If we continue with single row tambourines, this here is a Studio 49 tambourine. It's a German tambourine. And we have silver jingles on it. And we can see these beautiful silver jingles. Instead of a hole, we have a lovely suspended ring all the way around, so I can hold the tambourine back here. And it has a beautiful natural calfskin head. Gets quite a different, nice open sound. Now let's compare. You would think that all jingles sound the same, but that is not true. Not all jingles are created equal. No, they're not. Okay, so I'm going to quickly pick up 4 or 5 different combinations and let's listen to the different jingles. This is a single row silver. This is a single row, a double row copper. Okay, here's our double row copper. Here's our single row silver. Right? Here are a single row silver. Very nice. It's a big, this is a 12-inch tambourine made by a Black Swamp, right? Right? Here is a double row made by the same company, Black Swamp tambourine. And this one is a 10-inch double row, and this is beryllium. So you have beryllium jingles, and you have copper jingles. It's beryllium and copper mixed. Let's listen to this. Wow, it sounds dry, very Turkish. This one has a lovely ring. Wow, very different sound. And of course, when I'm playing different bits of orchestral repertoire, I'll have an idea as to the sound that I like. I like this. It has a combination of both sounds. It's dry and has a lovely jingle. Double row. Where do you play the tambourine and what part of the tambourine do you play on? Let's get into a little bit of things about the strokes and things that we use when we're playing it. Okay, you like everything else we've talked about, we're going to go back to our laws of nature. You have a set of jingles that you can't touch. The only thing you're really touching is the skin on the top of the head. So this means that we really have to be aware that we're moving these inanimate objects in time, but we're not touching each one. So we really have to move them together. The same thing goes if we're going to play it, we want them to speak together. If your tambourine is perpendicular to the floor, your jingles are all free. Can you hear how they ring on a little bit after? And you're getting that extra ringing. If I hold it perfectly parallel with the floor, it's a much drier sound because gravity is pulling the jingles to the center of the earth. So where I find the optimal place to play is someplace in between that. I bring it to about a 45-degree angle. 45-degree angle. How are we going to hit it with our fingers? Okay, what I do is I make a little bit of, I bring my thumb and these 3 fingers together, or all 4, and I make one of these I guess, pointed fingers together. Sort of like when you can imagine some guy going like, hey, you know, hey, you know, pushing in, like sort of poking someone in the chest, that type of a gesture. It's pretty solid, and we're going to come in contact with our tambourine like that, and we sort of address our tambourine, so we bring it up, we hold it once again between our eyes, the music stand, and the conductor, so we can see everybody together. For single notes, we dampen as we're hitting. If we want to play softer, you can play up on the rim, even with 1 finger. Softer yet, just make sure you're over a jingle. If I want to get louder, then I go to the knuckles. So I'll do a decrescendo and note my hand positions as I'm changing. So we learn to control all the aspects. What do we do if we want to play rapid, fast passages on the tambourine? Well, you could put it on a table, on a trap table, prop it up and play it with a few sticks. You can play it upside down. We could have it like this, maybe with a couple sticks or with your hands. Right, I think we can get a close-up of that. We can play flams, depending on what the composer has written and the conductor. I think that we need to be creative. We could stick a towel underneath the tambourine in here, prop it up and play it like that. We could play it with sticks again. I think we need to be creative. If you're in a situation where you need to have rolls on the tambourine, a roll, and we'll talk about this later, remember, a roll is the illusion of a sustained sound. It's the illusion of a sustained sound. If we need to do that, then we need to create a system where we can play articulated notes along with sustained notes. How do we do that? Well, we're going to use our trusty footrest that I used on our bass drum, which you can see here. This is our footrest. I've got my knee here. And are we able to get I think we can get a pretty good shot of that, of our footrest. I'll just slide it back a little bit so you can see. And once again, a chair can work, but it's surprising that, you know, once you knock up a couple of these footrests, and remember we've got a low setting, right? Well, that's sort of our medium setting because that's our low setting, right? So we've got 3 different settings that we could have on that one block of wood. I'll probably use the medium setting for right now. You see how I'm able to address the tambourine. I'm comfortable. I've got my knee up here. And yeah, I think that's about right. We have a almost 45-degree angle in my knee. I'm going to, in this particular one, we would start our music with the tambourine on the table, upside down. Right, did you hear I made that sound when I flipped it over? That can be very embarrassing in a concert. So you may have one tambourine flipped over. You may have another tambourine exactly identical that way on your table, right? So that you have that option. We can talk a little bit how you flip it over during a concert, whether we use a towel or whether we get involved in all kinds of little tricks. You know, I remember one time in a concert when I was playing in a concert band, I actually had to move them all over one at a time. This is when I was first in school and I had forgot. And you know, so I sat there counting rests, moving them all over, you know, one at a time, so then I could turn it over and not make a noise. So we want to avoid that stuff, but we all learn. Okay. So now to make these rapid passages on the tambourine, I'm going to hold it in my weaker hand. Remember, we hold the tambourine in our weaker hand so that our stronger hand can do the playing. If you notice, we all have a little bone on our knee. Actually, I might switch up to my high position here. We have a little bone on our knee here, and we're going to set the center of that tambourine right on the bone of the knee, which is about exactly the same position and contact as our fingers when they're like this. I'll actually have my students hold the tambourine like so that they know that they have the center position, so that it's all equilibrium, right? So then we're going to practice. We can hit the tambourine, and we can also play against our knee. You notice that when I play against my knee, I get a gidang, gidang, because it changes the variation. So we want to do this right? So that we don't hear the flams. So we start with the hand and we end with the hand. With a different tambourine, that's a lot to hold in my hand, and it's giving me quite a workout. Of course, we might have a single row. Again, same thing. Up into a shake roll. Now let's talk a little bit, putting it down as carefully as I can, about rolls. The roll is an illusion of a sustained sound. So we all know that I can't take an idiophone like a jingle and have it ring and create a sustained sound like our voice. La. We can't produce that. What we need to do is we need to duplicate the impact ringing at such a frequency or rate of times that our human mind perceives it as a sustained sound. Now that's a big one to sort of grasp, but really think about that. We perceive it to be a sustained sound. So single hits, we've got that. We're still doing that. The minute I am jingling it like this, it starts becoming a sustained sound. To achieve that is a little bit tricky. We're going to practice turning our tambourine this way. You notice that we're hearing the demi-semi-quavers or 30-second notes like that. That's a little bit too articulate. If I practice this way, you get the same thing. Let's try something halfway in between. And here you can see they're all jingling out of phase. This is something we have to practice a great deal as percussionists because it's very difficult to create a beautiful, smooth shake roll. We start our shake rolls with an attack. And we often end with an attack. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. You'll notice that when I want to stop it, I stop parallel to the floor so that we don't have the jingle. I can also have my roll start from down here and crescendo. I might even start with my finger on the drum, just jingling it very gently like this. You can see as I'm coming up, I'm jingling it and I'm coming into a shake roll. Very loud and then back down into here or up. So that we have to learn to control. We have to move the tambourine around without making sound. We have to get comfortable with the way these move and the way you control the jingles. Okay, we're almost at the end of our tambourine lesson, but of course everybody always asks me all the time about thumb rolls. You know, how do you do the thumb roll? What is the thumb roll? Well, Igor Stravinsky in Petrushka actually notated where he wanted thumb rolls. The thumb roll is a way of us producing this illusion of a sustained sound, but in a short burst. What I do is I cock my thumb all the way back, as far back as it will go. Okay? I just get it a little bit sticky or wet. I use the back of my tooth, something a wonderful percussionist taught me, Kevin Hathaway in the Philharmonic Orchestra in London. And I sort of rub it on the back of my teeth. You could use water. A lot of people have different methods, and I'm sure on the internet we can find a lot of alternate methods. But I use my tooth right here until it starts squeaking. When it's squeaking a little bit, I know there's no more oil on my finger. It's nice and dry. And then I impact the drum and I skip along the head. I finish my roll with an attack from my fist. It is possible to practice things like a figure 8, where we think we could have a continuous roll. I've never had a reason to use that in a concert. If I need a sustained roll, I'd probably go to a shake roll. So most of my rolls, you can end with an attack in the middle. Right? Our thumb roll, or even a finger roll, can be much softer. I use that by grabbing the fleshy pad of that index finger and applying pressure here. Now, the final technique, I have a few other extended techniques. Sometimes we need a grace note on the tambourine, like a double grace note. And for that, I'm going to bring the tambourine up, right? And I'll put an attack on it. That's quite an effective thing, and we have some orchestral repertoire where we do that. We may have a tambourine. This is a Brazilian tambourine, but following that technique, we can modify some of those. We can sort of get like a 5-stroke roll. I could play with the tambourine by just doing two here, and then we're going to lift 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? Sort of a fancy trick, but there may be applications for that. The last thing I thought I would show you is a little bit about, we have tambourines that do not have skins on them. These are used in rock and roll and theater. And I keep a wide range of different materials and styles. This one is sort of made out of tin with some light jingles. I bought this also in India. Really sounds lovely and light. Here's a little bit bigger one. Here's a similar one, but this one has brass jingles. Okay, this is the really the ubiquitous rhythm tech tambourine that was made famous in rock and roll days. And this one was great because it had a lovely half moon where you could grab your hand in here and change the center of gravity. And you can play this one. And there's some wonderful exponents of playing sort of commercial tambourine. And the last technique that I thought I would show you is the Brazilian tambourine technique. And this is produced by playing all of our strokes with a thumb stroke, a heel of our hand, a toe of our hand. By me applying a little pressure to the back and the front, I can actually change the pitch. And that's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing that. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our session on tambourines. I'm sure there's lots more that we could talk about, but this is our introduction session. Thank you very much for being with me today, and if you have questions, don't forget, you can always email me at garyfrance.com. Thank you.
We live drums.